I'll say, thanks be to God. Okay. And I love these readings that end with weeping and gnashing of teeth, and then I have to say it's good news. Each November, the readings in the church turn to looking at what we like to call the end of times. Looking at when God's going to come back and things will be settled up. Now, in the first reading, there was this idea of the day of the Lord in ancient Israel. And their idea was God was going to show up and smite all the other nations. So the prophets started taking this idea up and saying, you think God's just going to show up and smite the nations? Take a look at yourselves. This isn't going to be awesome for you either, Israel. But living in that sort of fear of God, living a life where we're just saying, well, we better do good, otherwise God's going to show up and do horrible, destructive things to the world and us. That doesn't move me. That makes me want to walk away and not play this game. In the parable that Jesus tells, it's not the master who says, yeah, I'm kind of ruthless. I am just going to go collect whatever I find, and that's going to be mine. It's the slave who was afraid and went and buried the master's money. It's the slave who lived in that fear and created his master in that way. And then lived out the consequences of that. Lived in darkness and gnashing teeth and sorrow. If we create God in our image of this tyrant who's just waiting to punish us, we're probably going to live in fear all the time. And we're probably going to take the treasures God has given us and stick it under a rock. And God has given us great treasures. Even this slave who was given 1 talent, calling it one seems like not much, but a talent is 6,000 days' wages. That's like 20 years worth of salary. So this guy that got 5, that's like 100 years of salary. But even one 20-year salary in a chunk is a great, great treasure. And God's promises and the way Jesus has called his disciples to live all throughout Matthew is a great, great treasure. One that isn't meant to be hidden in the ground. It's one that's meant to be lived and worked. Because when we start saying, we believe that all people are valued. We believe that John, who's going to be baptized today, is of innumerable worth, just like we are. The world starts to be richer. We stop being afraid of our neighbors and our countrymen and all those people around the world. We start living in our Master's joy, that creation is indeed good, that despite whatever hardships or stumbles we have in life, in the end, this life is good and this world is good, and our neighbors are of great, great value. Then, what doom is there? The doom that the way we know the world will pass away and be remade as God truly wants it. When those stumbles and those fears are gone, that sort of vast wiping the slate clean so God's vision, so those promises can be made in their fullness. I don't hear doom in that at all. What I hear is something that makes me want to rise to each day to make it through the junk that makes life difficult sometimes. That's an end of times that is worth living in right now. That's an end of times that's worth praying for. Come on, let it be tonight. I often tell people that pretty much daily I pray for the world to end. They're like, wow, you are depressing. But if we're praying for a world to end and be made in the fullness that we've been promised, when those 5 talents will be 5 more and God will give even more, I'll pray for that. Because that's what we hope for. And if we are going to cling to the way the world is and be so sad about losing it and these systems that we've put in place being wiped away, we're probably already living in some depressing gnashing of teeth. The day is bright, and we are called to live in it right now, even when it's cloudy out. God's reign and God's promises are the light of the world and give us life each and every day and will sustain us forever. Amen.